say Maninder Sidhu, the Minister of International Trade of Canada, joins us from Singapore. Maninder, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate having you here. And first of all, let's start off with your trip to Singapore for the Canada in Asia conference before you travel ahead to Vietnam. So why is this trip so strategically important right now?
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here in your studio in Singapore. Look, the Canada and Asia conference, very important. Hundreds of delegates coming together from investors, regional investors, industry leaders. It's important to share Canada's message that we are a reliable, stable partner, and at a time when you're seeing ruptures in the global trading system, Canada presents that certainty for businesses to come invest, and so those conversations are ongoing here. As you know, we're moving fast in Canada in terms of trade diversification, and my job as an international trade minister is to uncover more commercial opportunities around the world, especially here in Asia. In Singapore, it plays a very important role for Canada. We have many shared values, many of the mutual collaboration in terms of efforts that we're trying to do for economic opportunities. They align with what's happening here in Singapore, and we're having those important conversations here on the ground.
And Minister, Canada has been very clear about reducing its over-reliance on the U.S. So how central is Asia when it comes to that diversification strategy?
It's absolutely essential in terms of diversification. Canadians have strong connections here in Asia, especially in the region. You're seeing what we're doing through the CPTPP trading bloc. We have many other active negotiations that are going to be happening this year with India, with Philippines, with Thailand, with ASEAN, of course in the Gulf countries as well. And so there's a lot of opportunities here. Look, the region is growing fast. You're seeing a lot of need for energy. You're seeing a lot of need for agriculture. You're seeing a lot of need for critical minerals. Canada has all of that. We have 5 LNG projects in various phases of development. We're very proud. In June, our first shipment from Kitimat, BC, reached Asian markets. First time a large LNG shipment going outside of one particular market into Asian markets. And so that presents a lot of opportunity, as you heard Prime Minister Carney say over and over again, that Canada is an energy superpower and we have a lot to offer. And so here in Asia, as you know, there's a lot of need for agriculture, energy and mining, and we have all of that.
Canada has also positioned itself as a major player in the EV supply chain, and Canada's EV deal with China does send another signal of kind of making a serious shift away from the U.S. So how important is that sector to Canada, and what other kind of, I mean, you mentioned some of the other sectors again that you're prioritizing?
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, I was with the Prime Minister Carney in China to explore opportunities, but also to work through some of the tariff challenges for our agriculture industry. And it was a very successful trip. We came to an arrangement to lower tariffs on roughly $7 billion of agriculture goods, but also to welcome Chinese EVs to Canada to the tune of 49,000 is what we're starting off with. But of course, we want to eventually get to a joint venture between a Chinese and Canadian company to manufacture those EVs by Canadian workers. I think that's very important. Canadians have asked us to give them more options. They've asked us to bring them more opportunities for workers to produce world-class vehicles. And the Chinese technology is second to none. And so we want to make sure that we're there working and exploring opportunities with China.
The risk in all of this, of course, is evoking the ire of Trump. And Trump has already threatened Canada with 100% tariffs if it did a deal with China, a trade deal. And we have a tweet from Mark Carney has said that we're calibrating Canada's relationship with China strategically. I don't know if we can bring the tweet up. Pragmatically and decisively, he says, quote, to the benefit of the people of both our nations. So he talks about this importance of China and trade. But again, the U.S. is still Canada's largest trading partner. So how do you diversify without undermining that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. is our #1 trading partner, and they will be, they'll continue to be an important partner to Canada. Our geography is not changing as far as I know, and so we'll continue to engage with the U.S. There is a minister responsible for Canada-U.S. relations. My job as the Minister of International Trade is to explore opportunities in the rest of the world. And so if you look at, opportunities, what we're doing with China or India or others, Canada is strategically placed. Canada is the only country in the Western Hemisphere that has every single element required to build an electric vehicle battery. And so if you look at what we're doing there, and it's not a conversation that we're just having with the Chinese. We hosted the South Koreans last week from Hyundai to come build vehicles in Canada. The German economic minister was in Canada earlier today to explore and discuss opportunities of German automaking in Canada. And so people are choosing Canada. We have the most educated workforce in the world. We're stable, we're reliable, we have the critical minerals needed to make these electric vehicles. And so we do offer a good value proposition for manufacturers to come set up shop in Canada.
So beyond Asia, you mentioned there, we're looking at Europe in particular. So how does Europe fit into Canada's broader diversification strategy?
That's a great question. I mean, we've got long-standing ties with the European Union and with Europe as a whole. If you look at what Europe and Canada are doing in terms of defense spending targets, Canada is making record level of investments in the defense industry to the tune of $81 billion, the largest investment since 1950s. And so we're building up our capacity, our defense industry. And so those engagements with the European Union will present a lot of opportunities in defense. But again, on energy as well. Europe is looking for a stable supply of energy. And again, when it comes back to the Prime Minister's speech in Davos, that Canada as a middle power has a role to play, convening power to bring middle powers together to protect rules-based trade, but also to offer what the world needs in terms of energy, in terms of minerals, in terms of agriculture goods. And Canada is seen that way. And so my phone has not stopped ringing. We're attracting investments from all around the world. We just got an investment commitment of $70 billion from the UAE to invest in our ports, in our terminals. And that plays into my trade diversification strategy. We want to double non-U.S. trade by the tune of $300 billion, and that will require building up our capacity, our infrastructure in terms of ports. And we have, even here in Singapore, PSA, GIC, many of them have invested in these industries. They're comfortable investing and they want to do more, and so those conversations will continue to happen.
So a lot of diversification that you mentioned there beyond Asia into Europe, the UAE. But what about, when it comes to this USMCA, that review is going to be approaching. Does this kind of push to diversify, is that going to actually strengthen your hand when it comes to negotiations with the US, or do you think it actually risks more friction when it comes to the USMCA negotiations?
Yeah, when you look at that trade agreement, we call it CUSMA, USMCA, however you want to look at it, I think that agreement has benefited workers on both sides of the border, benefited industry on both sides of the border. And of course, we'll continue to have those conversations with our American friends, and we'll continue to make sure we engage at the highest of levels to make sure we get the best deal for Canada. But at the same time, as I was saying, we need to continue to diversify. Look, over 25 years ago, 90% of our trade was with the U.S. Now it's around 70-75%. It's not about replacing the Americans, but it's about adding to it and giving Canadians an opportunity to explore other areas in the world, and the appetite is there. I spent 13 years in the private sector facilitating international trade prior to politics, and if you asked me back then, businesses were just not ready. Now they are coming to the government actively saying, please help us, please engage, open doors, sign more trade agreements so we can utilize them and get our products to new global markets.
And when it comes to India, you mentioned they're doing deals with them as well. Is Prime Minister Mark Carney, is he confirmed to visit India officially to restart trade deal negotiations? And what can we be expecting from that visit if it goes ahead?
Yeah, in India, I was there just a few months ago in November to explore areas of collaboration. I sat down with the Energy Minister, Minister Hardeep Singh Puri. India is requiring about 70% more energy by 2040. And again, coming back to our original discussion on energy, we have what the world needs. We have what India needs in terms of LNG, but also if you look at nuclear, we're a world leader in nuclear in terms of CANDU, in terms of SMR, small modular reactors. We have the first commercialized unit in the G7 of an SMR with a partnership between GE and Hitachi in Ontario, Canada, where we've invested $2 billion. And so there's a lot of conversations around energy with India, around mining, around AI, technology. And so this visit in the coming weeks comes at an opportune time to explore those opportunities, but also I'm proud to say that we'll be launching negotiations in the coming weeks with India on a free trade agreement. India is destined to be the third largest economy in the world, and so we need to continue to engage. We've got a long-standing economic relationship with India, and we'll continue to grow on that.
Well, a security advisor, Ajit Doval, was in Ottawa on February the 7th, I believe, meeting his Canadian counterpart, Nathalie Drouin. So since trade and energy is now becoming a matter of national security in what is a new global order, what are you expecting to come from those talks?
Yeah, look, first and foremost, I think it's important to mention that, the public safety and security of our citizens is our first and foremost priority in Canada by our government. Of course, there's law enforcement dialogue happening. This expands from the Prime Minister's conversations at the G7 between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Carney on keeping communities safe, transnational repression, fighting organized crime, doing it together. And so the law enforcement dialogue will continue. But we can also continue to have engagement and dialogue on economic cooperation, and that's exactly what my job is as an economic minister, is to continue opening those doors for Canadian workers and Canadian businesses.
And Minister, one quick question before we go. We did talk about the USMCA review that's going to be coming up. I just wanted to ask if you've got any kind of priorities going into these discussions, or if you actually have any red lines as well. What are you hoping on your end that Canada gets out of it? What are your red lines?
One of my mentors told me you don't negotiate through the media, so I'll be prudent in my answer. But I think, as I said, they're an important trading partner to Canada, and we'll continue to have those conversations with Canadian workers at the front of our mind. But again, my focus as the International Trade Minister is here in the region to open doors in Asia, in the European Union. But of course, we'll continue to engage and explore those opportunities, because with Canada, it's always about mutual collaboration, mutual respect, presenting that certainty to businesses that want to invest in Canada. And we'll continue taking those calls.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Maninder Sidhu, the Minister of International Trade for Canada.